This is Adam from 3rd Gen Camaro Hacks. It is a beautiful spring day here in Columbus. It's basically summer, 73 degrees. I'm driving the IROC, and you know what happens to these cars when it gets to be warm out? That's right, they run hot. So today I'd like to just give you some tips on how to solve that problem of running hot, or maybe just some key problems that these cars have that you should check out if you're having issues. So number one, rule of thumb, if your temperature gauge gets up in the red, that's not good. There is an overheating light on these cars that should turn on when you overheat, but they don't always do that. If you have a tune port injection engine, they're controlled differently. The thermostat and the fan and the whole cooling system is controlled differently than if it's a carbureted engine. Throttle, body, and tune port injection engines are controlled by the computer mostly. There are some exceptions. Some parts that you would probably want to check out if you're having heating and cooling issues. First of all, check out your radiator. You can do a pressure test on those with a tool from AutoZone or Advanced Auto that you can rent with a deposit. You get your money back, and it's just a free, easy process to check and see if you've got a big problem. So checking your radiator is definitely an important thing to do. Next, water pumps on these. It's a big issue with these cars. They have water pump failures pretty often. So that is a good part to check out. Good way to see if it's failed is if it's weeping coolant out the bottom of the water pump when you turn the engine off, or even when it's running, sometimes it'll do that. So that is one possibility along with the radiator. Another thing you have to check is make sure your fan is coming on. Usually the fan will turn on these cars between 220 or 240 degrees. Some of these cars do have dual fan systems if you have air conditioning, in which case the air conditioning fan should turn on when you turn on the AC. One way to overcome maybe running hot if you have an air conditioning system and your fan doesn't turn on until fairly late is actually just turn on your AC. You can put it on low and it will turn your fan on, and that'll help cool down the car. So that is one hack for you today. Another part you should check out is the fan switch. This actually tells the fan when to turn on and off, and those can easily be corroded. There's one or two wires that go to that, and it's usually located between the 6 and 8 cylinders, or between 2 and 3 cylinders on the head of the engine. And so when those go bad, the fan doesn't work. Also, the fan relay is another common part failure. So that's some of the stuff that can go wrong with 3rd Gen Camaro for the cooling system. Some things I would suggest doing to overcome cooling problems is just check your fan and run your fan as much as you can. Some people will actually wire in a switch to run their fan. They can control it manually, and that's a good thing to do. It's just sometimes those switches can be complicated to use, or some people will leave the fan on, and then the battery runs out. So there are pros and cons to that solution. Camera just died. There's a solution that you can do. It's actually a product you put in your coolant that will kind of enhance the coolant and help the car run a little bit cooler. They say sometimes up to like 20 degrees, but it is not, it's not significant most of the time. It really depends on how hot it is outside. I think the hotter it is, maybe the more noticeable the effect, but yeah, around 70 degrees, it's not necessarily making a big difference. So that's one thing that could possibly help Also check all your belts, make sure they're not slipping, make sure your water pump is spinning, you know, the pulley is spinning well, you're not hearing any grinding or anything from the water pump. The cooling systems in these cars are very simple. Make sure you don't have any leaks, make sure your coolant is always topped off. They have a tendency to leak out coolant and you won't necessarily see a leak, but the level will drop. So just always check on that, and check on belts, hoses, everything that you can see, and just check for smells as well. If you smell like a sweet kind of smell coming from the car, coming from the engine bay, if you see any steam at all, check it out, because those are usually signs that there is a coolant leak, or you're burning, or some kind of coolant is evaporating in the engine bay. A lot of these cars just naturally smell like that in the engine bay too, just because they have slight leaks somewhere in the system. But yeah, these cars are notorious for it. If you guys have any questions about other solutions or other parts of the system, I have done quite a bit of repair to the 2 different 86 Camaros I've had, and so I know a pretty good amount about the system. So leave questions or comments below. I would be very happy to read them and get back to you. If you guys like the video, you like the style of the video or anything about it, just let me know. It really helps a lot. And thanks for watching, everybody. Hopefully I'll be uploading more of these types of videos in the coming months as summer is here and the car is out. So thanks again, everybody, and have a good one.